$847,392.18. That exact number is burned into my memory like a brand across my soul. Not 847,000 or almost 850K, but $847,392.18 down to the penny. That's how much my best friend Marcus Caldwell stole from our crypto investment fund while he sat in my living room, sipping Dom Perignon that bubbled and sparkled like liquid lies in his crystal flute. The golden champagne caught the afternoon light streaming through my windows, creating tiny prisms that danced across his smug face. He set his new Patek Philippe on my coffee table with a soft metallic clink, the sound of Swiss precision bought with my stolen future. The expensive cologne he wore, Tom Ford Oud Wood, filled my nostrils with its heavy, woody scent, a fragrance that would make me nauseous for months afterward every time I encountered it in elevators or restaurants. Marcus thought he was celebrating with some naive crypto enthusiast who'd nod along and trust whatever numbers he presented. He had no idea he was bragging to a forensic accountant who'd spent 18 years tracking cryptocurrency fraud for federal prosecutors, someone who traced over $4 billion in stolen digital assets and testified in 37 federal cases. He stood there in my home, leather shoes squeaking against my hardwood floor, absolutely convinced he'd pulled off the perfect financial crime. What Marcus didn't know was that blockchain never forgets, and neither do I. I'm Robert Chen, and watching Marcus toast his monster trading month while the bitter taste of betrayal filled my mouth like copper pennies, I felt something I rarely experience: the cold, surgical calm that precedes a financial autopsy. The warmth from my living room fireplace heated one side of my face while the other remained cool from the evening air, a perfect metaphor for the divided reality I was living. In 6 weeks, Marcus would be standing in handcuffs before a federal judge, watching his assets freeze in real time, while prosecutors read charges under 18 U.S.C. 1343 for wire fraud and 18 U.S.C. 1956 for money laundering. And I would be the expert witness whose forensic analysis put him in federal prison for 15 years. What would you do if your closest friend stole nearly $1 million from you while smiling in your face? Drop your country flag in the comments. I want to know how betrayal like this hits people around the world. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was a symphony of deception played in movements, each note carefully orchestrated to sound like friendship while systematically draining my financial future. Marcus and I had been inseparable since college, roommates at Northwestern, best man at each other's weddings, godfathers to each other's children. When he approached me in January 2021 about launching a crypto investment fund together, the market was exploding with institutional adoption. Bitcoin had just shattered $40,000, Tesla had announced their $1.5 billion purchase, and even traditional banks were scrambling to offer crypto services. Marcus had always been the entrepreneurial visionary between us, while I provided the analytical backbone that kept his ideas grounded in reality. "Rob, think about it," Marcus said over dinner at Morton's Steakhouse, cutting into a $200 Wagyu steak with the confidence of someone who'd already spent money he hadn't earned. The knife sliced through the meat with barely any resistance, releasing the rich, iron smell of perfectly aged beef. "You've got 18 years of forensic accounting experience. I've got the network and market instincts. We pool our capital, bring in accredited investors, and ride this crypto tsunami professionally. Real fund structure, multi-signature wallets, proper compliance, quarterly reports, the whole institutional framework." The restaurant hummed with quiet conversations of Chicago's financial elite, crystal glasses clinking like wind chimes made of money. Marcus leaned back in the leather booth, gesturing with his fork as if conducting an orchestra of opportunity. I should have trusted the instincts that 18 years of investigating financial fraud had honed to razor sharpness. I can usually smell deception from across a room, the way a liar's voice tightens when they improvise, how their eyes dart left when accessing creativity instead of memory, the subtle breathing changes when constructing fiction. But friendship has a way of dulling those senses, like Novocaine for professional paranoia. Marcus painted a compelling vision, a $2 million initial fund split equally between our contributions, with room to scale rapidly through his network of tech executives and crypto early adopters. He'd identified several early-stage opportunities in DeFi protocols and NFT projects where his connections could secure preferential allocations. My role would be fund administration, compliance oversight, and risk management, everything requiring actual financial expertise, while he handled business development and deal flow. We structured the fund with what I believed was bulletproof security. I insisted on a Gnosis-safe multi-signature wallet requiring 2 of 3 signatures for any transaction exceeding $10,000, with all addresses pre-approved and documented. Marcus agreed immediately, almost enthusiastically. "Absolutely, Rob. We do this right or we don't do it at all." We brought in James Morrison, a retired SEC compliance officer with 23 years of enforcement experience, as our third key holder and independent oversight. The initial funding went smoothly. $847,392.18 from my personal crypto holdings accumulated over 4 years of disciplined investing, plus $650,000 from Marcus and $500,000 from David Park, a tech executive whose startup had just been acquired by Microsoft. The first 3 months felt like validation. Marcus forwarded screenshots of successful trades, PDFs of allocation confirmations from hot DeFi projects, and regular updates on our growing portfolio. Locked in $500K USDC on the new compound at 18% APY, he'd text, followed by official-looking confirmation emails. Early allocation secured on the GameFi project, 2x minimum guaranteed. The numbers aligned with our strategy, documentation looked authentic, and monthly statements showed steady growth through the volatile spring of 2021. But blockchain doesn't lie, even when friends do. The first red flag appeared on a Tuesday evening in April, during my routine wallet reconciliation. One transaction caught my attention. $127,000 USDC transfer to an address not in our approved counterparty list. Using Etherscan to trace the path, I discovered the funds had been immediately swapped for ETH and routed through Tornado Cash, a cryptocurrency mixer used almost exclusively for obscuring transaction trails from law enforcement. The familiar chill of discovery ran down my spine. I called Marcus immediately, keeping my voice level and professional. "Hey Marcus, I'm seeing a large USDC transfer on the 15th that's not in our April report. Can you walk me through that?" The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds too long. That pause where someone's brain constructs an explanation for something they hoped would never be discovered. "Oh, that," Marcus laughed, but the sound carried forced casualness. "Emergency arbitrage opportunity between Uniswap and SushiSwap. Price discrepancy lasted maybe 20 minutes. Had to move fast. Didn't want to wake you at 2 a.m. for signature approval." But our multi-sig required 2 of 3 signatures for any transaction over $10,000. There was no emergency override. I pulled up our Gnosis Safe interface and saw something that made my blood turn to ice. The wallet configuration had been modified 3 days earlier to allow single-signature transactions under $150,000 for operational efficiency, a change I never authorized. James Morrison swore he'd never approved it either. That night, I began what I do better than almost anyone: following digital money through blockchain's labyrinth. Using Chainalysis Reactor and my proprietary forensic tools, I traced every Satoshi from our fund's inception. The pattern was methodical, sophisticated, and devastating. Marcus had been skimming since month 2, using fake trading reports, unauthorized wallet modifications, and crafted documentation to mask his theft. The successful trades were real, but profits were diverted to wallets he controlled. The early allocations were legitimate investments, but Marcus was selling our tokens immediately while showing us fabricated holding statements claiming we still owned positions that had been liquidated weeks earlier. Over the next 72 hours, I worked with the methodical precision that had made me one of the most sought-after forensic accountants in federal cryptocurrency cases. My home office transformed into a digital war room. Multiple monitors displaying blockchain explorers, while the printer hummed constantly, churning out page after page of Marcus's crimes. The smell of hot toner mixed with cold coffee I'd been nursing since dawn, creating an atmosphere that reminded me of late nights preparing for federal prosecutions. Using Chainalysis Reactor and Crystal Analytics, I traced every Satoshi from our fund's inception, documenting each transaction with the same attention to detail I'd use for a federal case. The pattern that emerged was methodical, sophisticated, and devastating. Marcus had stolen my entire $847,392.18 contribution through a scheme that siphoned funds gradually to avoid triggering the large transaction alerts I'd built into our monitoring system. But that wasn't the end. He'd also skimmed another $423,891 from our joint trading operations and investor capital, money that should have been generating returns for David Park and our other limited partners. The beauty of his scheme was its patience. Instead of grabbing everything at once like an amateur, Marcus had been bleeding our funds slowly over 6 months, each theft carefully sized to stay under our audit thresholds while maintaining the illusion of successful trading activity. The most sophisticated part involved a network of shell wallets he'd created to simulate legitimate trading counterparties. Using advanced blockchain analysis, I discovered Marcus had established relationships with at least 12 different cryptocurrency addresses that appeared to be independent trading entities, but were actually all controlled by him through various exchanges and privacy services. When our fund would invest in a DeFi protocol, the tokens would indeed be purchased and staked as promised. But Marcus had structured the smart contracts so that staking rewards flowed to his personal wallets instead of back to our fund. On paper, we owned millions of dollars worth of staked tokens generating impressive yields. In reality, we owned worthless positions, while Marcus collected actual profits through a maze of smart contract redirections. The technical sophistication was matched only by the emotional manipulation he'd used to maintain my trust throughout the theft. Every friendly dinner, every casual conversation about market conditions, every family gathering where he'd played with my daughter and complimented my wife's cooking, all performance art designed to keep me from looking too closely at the numbers. Marcus had weaponized 18 years of friendship, turning every shared memory into ammunition for psychological warfare. The worst part was discovering he'd been documenting his success on social media, posting photos of expensive dinners and luxury purchases with captions about his trading prowess, while my stolen money funded his lifestyle upgrade. Friday evening, I had to tell Sarah everything. She was in our kitchen preparing dinner. Familiar sounds of chopping vegetables and sizzling oil, creating a domestic soundtrack that felt surreal given what I was about to destroy. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air, making my stomach turn as I approached with my laptop displaying evidence of our financial ruin. When I showed her the blockchain analysis, color drained from her face like water flowing from a broken dam. Her hands trembled as she gripped the counter, voice barely a whisper when she asked, "All of it? Everything we saved?" The sound of her quiet sob cut through me deeper than any physical pain I'd ever experienced. The next morning brought Emily's innocent question about college applications, her bright eyes clouded with anxiety she'd picked up from our hushed conversations. "Dad, I heard you and Mom talking about money. Can I still go to state?" The question hit me like a physical blow, seeing my daughter's worried face reflecting fears that no 17-year-old should carry. That was my rock-bottom moment, seeing my daughter's future uncertainty caused by my misplaced trust in someone who'd held her as a baby, someone who'd been family for nearly 2 decades. I tried conventional routes first, each one a lesson in institutional helplessness. The local police officer's eyes glazed over when I mentioned cryptocurrency, his dismissive tone making it clear that digital theft wasn't real crime in his worldview. "International scam, nothing we can do," he said, already reaching for the next case file. The FBI's IC3 portal felt like shouting into a digital void, my detailed complaint disappearing into a bureaucratic black hole where cryptocurrency fraud reports go to die. Lawyers quoted fees that would cost more than I could recover, their sympathetic voices offering little hope while explaining that international crypto fraud was incredibly complex with slim chances of recovery. That Saturday morning, watching Emily stare at her dream university brochure with tears threatening to spill from her eyes, something crystallized inside me with diamond-hard clarity. The shame and self-pity that had consumed me for weeks evaporated, replaced by the cold, surgical focus I'd developed over 18 years of hunting financial criminals. Marcus hadn't just stolen from Robert Chen the friend. He'd stolen from Robert Chen the forensic accountant, someone who traced over $4 billion in cryptocurrency fraud and testified in 37 federal cases. He'd made the mistake of thinking friendship would blind me to his crimes, forgetting that I possessed tools and knowledge that could follow every digital breadcrumb he'd left across the blockchain. "Yes, honey," I told Emily, my voice carrying certainty that surprised even me. "You can still go to state. Everything will be okay." I looked at Sarah and saw hope flicker in her eyes for the first time in weeks. Marcus picked the wrong person to steal from. He didn't steal from a victim, he stole from a hunter, and I'm going to make him regret every single transaction. The decision felt like a weight lifting from my shoulders, replaced by familiar excitement of beginning a complex investigation. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a forensic accountant with a personal vendetta and the skills to pursue it. Monday morning, I transformed my home office into a forensic investigation command center that would have impressed the FBI's cybercrime division. Fresh coffee mixed with the ozone scent of electronics running at full capacity as I added 3 additional monitors to my existing setup, creating a wall of screens that hummed with digital precision. I'd taken leave from my consulting practice, telling my assistant I was working on a complex fraud investigation requiring complete attention. She didn't know the target was someone who'd been best man at my wedding. The taste of cold determination replaced the bitter flavor of betrayal as I began the methodical process of financial autopsy that had made me successful in 37 federal cases. The hunt for Marcus Caldwell was officially beginning, and he had no idea what was coming for him. Monday morning, I transformed my home office into a forensic investigation command center that would have impressed the FBI's cybercrime division. Fresh coffee mixed with the ozone scent of electronics running at full capacity as I added 3 additional monitors to my existing setup, creating a wall of screens that hummed with digital precision. I'd taken leave from my consulting practice, telling my assistant I was working on a complex fraud investigation requiring complete attention. She didn't know the target was someone who'd been best man at my wedding. The taste of cold determination replaced the bitter flavor of betrayal as I began the methodical process of financial autopsy that had made me successful in 37 federal cases. The hunt for Marcus Caldwell was officially beginning, and he had no idea what was coming for him. Monday morning, I transformed my home office into a forensic investigation command center that would have impressed the FBI's cybercrime division. Fresh coffee mixed with the ozone scent of electronics running at full capacity as I added 3 additional monitors to my existing setup, creating a wall of screens that hummed with digital precision. I'd taken leave from my consulting practice, telling my assistant I was working on a complex fraud investigation requiring complete attention. She didn't know the target was someone who'd been best man at my wedding. The taste of cold determination replaced the bitter flavor of betrayal as I began the methodical process of financial autopsy that had made me successful in 37 federal cases. The hunt for Marcus Caldwell was officially beginning, and he had no idea what was coming for him. Monday morning, I transformed my home office into a forensic investigation command center that would have impressed the FBI's cybercrime division. Fresh coffee mixed with the ozone scent of electronics running at full capacity as I added 3 additional monitors to my existing setup, creating a wall of screens that hummed with digital precision. I'd taken leave from my consulting practice, telling my assistant I was working on a complex fraud investigation requiring complete attention. She didn't know the target was someone who'd been best man at my wedding. The taste of cold determination replaced the bitter flavor of betrayal as I began the methodical process of financial autopsy that had made me successful in 37 federal cases. The hunt for Marcus Caldwell was officially beginning, and he had no idea what was coming for him. Monday morning, I transformed my home office into a forensic investigation command center that would have impressed the FBI's cybercrime division. Fresh coffee mixed with the ozone scent of electronics running at full capacity as I added 3 additional monitors to my existing setup, creating a wall of screens that hummed with digital precision. I'd taken leave from my consulting practice, telling my assistant I was working on a complex fraud investigation requiring complete attention. She didn't know the target was someone who'd been best man at my wedding. The taste of cold determination. Monday morning, I transformed my home office into a forensic investigation command center that would have impressed the FBI cybercrime division. The room smelled like hot electronics and fresh coffee, my fingers felt dry from printer paper dust, and the muted hum of cooling fans vibrated through the floorboards. 3 new monitors flickered to life, bathing everything in cool blue light, while warm sunlight streamed through windows and illuminated the yellow couch in the adjacent room. I chewed a stale mint to kill the bitterness in my mouth and began the methodical process of financial autopsy. Using Chainalysis Reactor, Crystal Analytics, and Etherscan, I mapped Marcus's digital footprint with surgical precision. Every transaction from our fund flowed across my screens like a river of evidence, each hop through decentralized exchanges and privacy services, leaving digital fingerprints that most criminals don't realize exist. Marcus had been sophisticated in his money laundering, using Tornado Cash mixers, cross-chain bridges through multi-chain and Synapse, and multiple privacy coins like Monero and Zcash. But blockchain forensics had evolved far beyond what he understood. The breakthrough came when I discovered his critical operational security failure. While he'd been careful about mixing stolen cryptocurrency, he'd been careless about fiat off-ramps where digital assets became spendable money. 3 shell wallets had converged on a single Coinbase account KYC'd to Caldwell Capital Management LLC, then wired funds to Bank of America account ending in 1392. When I saw the bank descriptor line reading Caldwell Cap Management OPEX, I actually laughed, a dry, humorless sound. He thought he could rename theft operating expenses. The technical investigation revealed Marcus's entire criminal infrastructure. Using reverse image searches on his forged allocation PDFs, I found a subtle watermark reflection that connected to a GitHub repository where someone had cloned a DeFi project's documentation template. The commit history showed an email, ops@caldwelldigital.com. WhoIce records were privacy masked, but DNS history revealed previous MX records pointing to a Dallas ISP and an A record tagged CDV Billing, Caldwell Digital Ventures. Wyoming Secretary of State filings confirmed the LLC, but UCC records for his leased Lamborghini Huracan listed guarantor MT Caldwell. Cook County property records showed a townhome purchased all cash by Caldwell Dynamics Holdings LP, 6 weeks after our fund launched. The paper trail was forming like a noose around his neck. But prosecutors don't move on technical evidence alone. They need victims, documents, and money trails. I built a comprehensive spreadsheet with tabs for every scheme: fund skimming, fake DeFi yields, liquidated allocations, and management fees drawn from stolen principal. Then I went hunting for other victims. Using social media intelligence and crypto fraud forums, I found a dormant Telegram group called Caldwell Alpha Fund with 43 members and a pinned message about Q2 distributions delayed due to exchange KYC issues. I reached out carefully, sending only verifiable facts and never speculation. 12 men responded within 48 hours, reporting losses ranging from $18,500 to $402,000. 2 had wire transfers to the same Bank of America account ending in 1392. Together, we built what prosecutors call a victim coalition, a coordinated group presenting unified evidence to federal authorities. Using encrypted signal communications and secure document sharing, we created a comprehensive database of Marcus's crimes spanning multiple schemes and totaling over $3.2 million in confirmed losses. Each new victim added another federal count, transforming individual theft into a RICO racketeering case that would interest prosecutors. James Morrison prepared a sworn affidavit authenticating our original 2 of 3 multi-signature governance and confirming no emergency carve-outs existed that Marcus had secretly implemented. The psychological warfare began in week 4 when Marcus noticed uncomfortable questions from his victims. He scheduled an emergency investor call to address market volatility concerns, but I was ready. During the Zoom session, I watched his micro-expressions carefully as I asked specific wallet addresses, transaction hashes, and smart contract configurations that only someone with forensic knowledge would understand. The slight widening of his eyes when I mentioned specific blockchain addresses, the way his voice tightened discussing Tornado Cash transactions, every tell confirmed he knew his operation was compromised. "Rob, you're getting pretty technical there," Marcus laughed, but the sound was brittle like ice cracking under pressure. "Maybe we should discuss complex stuff offline." His attempt to isolate the threat was textbook criminal behavior. I drafted preservation letters to Coinbase, Kraken, and Bank of America, citing 18 U.S.C. 2703F and requesting immediate preservation of all records tied to specific wallet clusters, IP logs, device fingerprints, and ACH transactions. For banks, I referenced 31 U.S.C. 5318 and reminded them of SAR obligations for suspicious cryptocurrency off-ramp activity over $10,000. I filed complaints with the SEC Enforcement Division, citing Rule 10b-5 misrepresentations, the CFTC for commodity fraud, and a comprehensive package to the FBI field office alleging wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. 1343, money laundering under 18 U.S.C. 1956, and tax evasion under 26 U.S.C. 7201 for unreported staking rewards. The endgame accelerated when James Morrison called Friday evening with news that made my pulse quicken. "Marcus tried to bribe me today," James said, voice carrying excitement of a retired SEC enforcement officer who smelled blood. "Offered me $50,000 to sign off on liquidating remaining assets for tax optimization. He's panicking." The sound of desperation in a criminal's voice is unmistakable. I'd heard it in dozens of federal cases when targets realize their perfect crime has become a perfect trap. That afternoon, I met Special Agent Michael Ortiz at the FBI's Chicago field office. The lobby had that government smell: cleaner, paper, and old HVAC systems. In a fluorescent-lit conference room, I slid my evidence binder across the table and watched him flip pages. He tapped a transaction flow chart with his pen. "This is prosecutor ready. How soon could you testify?" I felt the dry paper edge under my finger and said, "Any time." He brought in AUSA Daniel Brooks via speakerphone, who asked tight questions about methodology, chain of custody, and expert qualifications. When Brooks said, "We'll draft seizure affidavits and 2703D orders," I tasted metal, pure adrenaline. I set monitoring alerts on Marcus's transaction patterns and prepared to document his next move. The trap was armed, federal agencies were coordinated, and Marcus Caldwell was about to learn that stealing from a forensic accountant carries consequences he never imagined. The trap closed on Marcus Caldwell at 6:47 a.m. on Tuesday, September 14th, exactly 93 days after I discovered his theft. I was sipping coffee in my home office, the familiar aroma mixing with crisp autumn air drifting through my window when my phone buzzed with a text that made me smile for the first time in months. "Package delivered. Target acquired." Special Agent Jennifer Walsh had just confirmed Marcus was in federal custody, arrested at his downtown Chicago office as he attempted to transfer another $200,000 through his Kraken account. The metallic taste of adrenaline filled my mouth as I imagined federal agents watching his screen while he typed wallet addresses I'd already flagged as part of his money laundering network. According to Agent Walsh, Marcus had been so confident in his operational security that he'd left his laptop unlocked, displaying Tornado Cash transactions and encrypted communications with money mules across 3 countries. His face went white as paper when she mentioned my name as the complainant who'd built the case. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed through his marble office, a metallic finality that still brings me deep satisfaction. The federal complaint read like a prosecutor's dream. 37 counts of wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. 1343, 14 counts of money laundering under 18 U.S.C. 1956, 6 counts of securities fraud, and 3 counts of tax evasion. Marcus was looking at 25 to 30 years under federal sentencing guidelines. The asset seizure was swift and comprehensive. Within hours, federal marshals had frozen $2.3 million across 14 bank accounts, seized his Lamborghini Huracan and Porsche 911 Turbo, and placed liens on his Chicago townhome and Aspen vacation property. The cryptocurrency seizures were even more satisfying. Agent Walsh's team recovered 847 Bitcoin, 12,000 Ethereum, and over $1.8 million in stablecoins from wallets Marcus thought were untraceable. The blockchain forensics I'd provided had been so thorough that the FBI's cyber forensics team called it prosecutorial gold. The media coverage was brutal and immediate. Marcus's mugshot appeared on every financial news website within hours. Chicago cryptocurrency fund manager arrested in $3.2 million fraud scheme screamed the headlines. Local news stations ran footage of his luxury cars being towed away while neighbors filmed with their phones. His LinkedIn profile was flooded with comments from former colleagues expressing shock and disgust. His children's private school received so many calls they issued a statement distancing themselves from the family. Marcus's carefully curated image of crypto visionary had shattered completely, replaced by the reality of a common criminal in handcuffs. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for October 15th, with me listed as the government's primary witness. Marcus's high-priced defense attorney tried desperately to negotiate a plea deal, but Assistant U.S. Attorney Daniel Brooks saw no reason for concessions. "Your client stole from a forensic accountant," Brooks told the defense team. "The evidence is so comprehensive we could get a conviction with our eyes closed. 25 years minimum, full restitution, and lifetime financial monitoring." The defeat in his lawyer's voice was almost as satisfying as the arrest footage. The trial lasted 8 days, though the outcome was never in doubt. I testified for 6 hours across 2 days, walking the jury through my blockchain analysis with methodical precision. The prosecution used my forensic work as the foundation for their entire case, displaying transaction flows on courtroom screens while I explained how each theft had been executed and concealed. Marcus's defense strategy was pathetic, claiming he'd been confused by complex cryptocurrency regulations and had made honest mistakes. During cross-examination, his attorney tried to paint me as a disgruntled partner seeking revenge. "Mr. Chen," he said with false concern, "isn't it true you lost significant money and might be biased?" I looked him squarely in the eye, then turned to the jury. "My analysis is based on immutable blockchain data and 18 years of forensic accounting principles, not personal bias. The facts show Mr. Caldwell committed wire fraud, money laundering, and securities fraud." I ended with calculated precision. "You know what's funny about blockchain? It's forever. Every transaction, every lie, permanently recorded. Mr. Caldwell's entire criminal enterprise is tattooed on the internet for eternity." The jury saw through his lies in less than 3 hours, returning guilty verdicts on all counts. The sentencing hearing was my moment of complete vindication. Judge Patricia Williams listened to victim impact statements from 12 people whose lives Marcus had destroyed. When my turn came, I looked directly at Marcus and spoke words I'd rehearsed for months. "Your Honor, the defendant didn't just steal money. He weaponized 18 years of friendship to commit sophisticated financial crimes. He looked my daughter in the eye at family gatherings while stealing her college fund. This wasn't opportunity, it was calculated betrayal, demonstrating complete moral bankruptcy." Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes, staring at his hands while his shoulders shook. Judge Williams sentenced him to 28 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole before serving 85%. Full restitution of $3.2 million plus interest, lifetime ban from securities, lifetime prohibition on cryptocurrency ownership, forfeiture of all assets purchased with stolen proceeds. When the bailiff led Marcus away in shackles, he finally looked at me one last time. The fear in his eyes was everything I'd hoped to see. 2 years later, my family had recovered financially through restitution and seized assets. Emily graduated from Northwestern with a degree in criminal justice, saying she wants to hunt financial criminals like her father. I received a letter from USP Marion where Marcus is serving his sentence. I threw it away without reading past the first paragraph. Some betrayals don't deserve redemption. Marcus Caldwell learned that stealing from a forensic accountant carries consequences lasting decades. If you've been scammed by someone you trusted, don't just report it and hope. Start investigating, build your case, hunt them down. The blockchain remembers everything, and justice is always possible if you know how to follow the digital trail.